Hello, and welcome to the 30-second video in my Punishing Grave and Lore series. Today we'll cover the 22nd chapter of the main story, Renaissance du Fantastique. Previously, Babylonia faced one of its greatest threats with the emergence of the Hero Tower, and with nearly all of Babylonia left paralyzed due to the tower's immense viral density, only Hyperreal, Lee's specialized frame, with its complete viral immunity was able to get close. With this frame, Lee fought his way up the tower and rewrote its rules, turning it into a massive purification filter, resulting in an area of zero punishing virus. Soon after exploration began, Babylonia received an unknown signal from within the clean zone. Now it's up to an unlikely group of constructs to explore the city and investigate the deeper secrets hiding in its shadows. Now without any further delay, let's dive into Chapter 22, Renaissance du Fantastique. Ayla had only seen war once in her life, and that sight changed her for years to come. From that moment on, she wanted to capture the reality of the world, to engrave it into her very being and display it within her art, a sentiment she shared with a dear friend. Our paths will be rectified, as long as we portray the world as it truly is, a message left by Selena before her mission to the space station, a calling card to Ayla, leading her where she wanted to go. Or so she thought, but she couldn't have been more wrong. She was afraid, scared of the virus-ravaged world and the countless corrupted within it. She simply was not as brave as she thought. So she became a construct, even going so far as to join the archaeological team, both to correct her naive viewpoint and discover her own reason to fight. Alan, chairman of the WGAA, sits in his office when Leonie brings him details of Kaleido, Ayla's new frame. While she fits well in her current setting, Alan wants to give Ayla and the organization a chance to step onto a new stage, and with the task force being in such poor condition at the moment, this is the best time for him to bring Iris Warbler front and center. Later that day, Wells meets with Sika over the dissolution of her team. As a chief who graduated top of her class, she has been left with quite big shoes to fill, following behind living legends like Chrome and Grey Raven's commandant. However, Wells informs her she will not be the second coming of either of them. They excel because they have found a formula that works for them, and she will only limit her own potential if she tries to master someone else's game. The Parliament wanted her to be their proper example of what a chief commandant should be, and she fit the bill as someone new, impressionable, and most of all controllable, as opposed to the other two, who are far more set in their ways, hence the hasty team assignment for Aphrodite. But today, Wells has called her in to inform her of her new team assignment, and with that, Alan enters the room. On Earth, a silver-haired construct is hiding in a set of ruins, trying to evade his Babylonian pursuer. This construct, Lena, has been hunting Teasel for the past few months. If he stayed with the Ascendants, she likely wouldn't have been an issue, but in the end he turned them down, since what he wanted was freedom, not a new master. He activates the EMP trap he set up beforehand and traps her, simply leaving, choosing not to kill someone with the potential to pass the filtering. Hours later, the trap runs out of power, and Lena finally escapes. She is not originally a member of the Purifying Force, but due to a personal obsession, Nicola allowed her to take on the mission, and now having failed, she receives an immediate transfer to her new team. Back at the WGAA, Commandant assists Ayla in searching for any of the whale song signals emitted by Selena. Ever since her supposed disappearance after the fall of Longinus and destruction of Siren, Ayla has been attempting to track Selena as she wanders the surface, using the remote connection chamber and Hamlet system. After finishing up, he notices Ayla's new frame, and she explains that the Archaeological Association is also responsible for securing previous era technology, and with the creation of the Clean Zone, their number of missions has gone up dramatically. So she was given a more combat-focused frame to take the pressure off the task force, who usually provided escorts for her team. Before she can explain further, Commandant receives a call on his terminal, and makes his way to the briefing room for his next assignment. In Ayla's personal studio, she is joined by Sika and Trojan, an old veteran transferred out of Corono. Due to the unique nature of their squad, Ayla is having them study various artifacts and paintings to better recognize their value while out in the field. She joins them in their special training, and explains that many in Babylonia find art and the WGAA's existence a waste, since neither can help defeat the Ascendants or rid the world of the virus. But the preservation of culture is valuable in its own right, a reminder that the ability to create isn't limited to a select few, but something that belongs to and can be made by everyone. They don't go out fighting on the front lines, but that's not their purpose. They work tirelessly every day towards their own goal. During their conversation, Alan enters the room to inform the team of their very first deployment. On the surface, there has been an increase in strange radio signals, and imaging from local drones doesn't show any human presence, but machine activity. On the hologram is a city named Constellia that was designed and built during the Golden Age by a former WGAA member named Mikhail Vasari and was once within a dead zone, greatly limiting exploration of the area. But ever since the appearance of the tower and the drop in viral density, they have been able to get a better look, and to their shock, the city is in near perfect condition. These two facts are more than enough to rouse suspicion, and much like the orphanage caretaker Vanessa encountered, Sika proposes the city might be under the management of local machines. This, along with the city being the last look into the Golden Age, places it directly under the WGAA's jurisdiction, and after getting the needed approval, Iris Warbler accepts their first mission. They land on the outskirts of the city, and the closer they get, the more clean and modern the landscape becomes. In the center of the city is a massive windmill that serves as both an independent purification filter and signal jammer, adding to the list of reasons the city escaped Babylonia's eyes for so long. Crossing the city border, they meet up with Lena, who had been exploring beforehand, and officially begin their investigation. As they explore, they come across one of the strange machines Lena encountered during her earlier search. These machines have even formed various factions, painting over large sections of the city to claim it as territory. In a rage, Ayla storms over to chastise the machine for daring to cover another's work, and after causing quite the panic, they question the machine about a number of phrases it said while trying to run away. First of all was a name it repeated a number of times, Cervantes, who serves as the machine's leader and was the one who informed the machines of Babylonia's arrival, as well as being the one who gathered them together to rebuild the city. Here they work tirelessly to recreate the artworks left behind by Sage, and cultivate the emotions they inspired within them. However, 2 months ago, Cervantes locked himself in the central windmill, warning of the Babylonians' arrival, and this time frame is highly unusual, as Babylonia didn't know of Constellia's existence 2 months ago. But having gotten a new lead, they bid farewell to the machine, and head to the nearby museum. And as they walk off, the machine can't help but find them extremely similar to another guest he met in the city. Entering the museum, they explore the first gallery containing records of various Golden Age factions. The large room comes to life with lights and displays activating on approach, as a tour guide shows them the various exhibits, and lifelike projections immersing the audience in the book called History. While exploring the building, the alarm system is activated, and the team is attacked by the security staff. The strain of battle quickly takes its toll on the team, as their lack of synergy makes the fight far harder than it should have been. With Lena's quick thinking, she hacks into the security system and stops the attack, freeing the team to head further into the museum. Entering the next hall, they find it covered in ice and snow. Before Lena destroys the refrigeration unit, a small messenger machine makes its appearance, converting itself into a projector. On the screen is a mechanoid who identifies himself as Cervantes, the administrator of the city. Seeing that Ayla came personally, he admits that this was all part of his plan, but means no harm, simply wanting her to enjoy the various galleries he's prepared, so afterwards he can receive her answer as a fellow art lover. And with that, he signs off, leaving the messenger machine to serve as a guide. Ayla suggests they follow along, and Lena voices her opposition immediately, wanting to go after Cervantes himself, with Ayla reminding her that Iris Warbler wasn't formed as a squad specialized for combat. Their primary goal is the exploration and retrieval of Golden Age art and information. Within the gallery, they encounter replicas of the Bionics and Rosetta, and while not being quite equal to the real thing, these copies are dangerous enough to warrant concern. After the fighting, they can't help but wonder, why risk exposing all of this to Babylonia just to lure in the WGAA? While looking around, they find a data chip belonging to Cervantes, and on it is what they assume to be his early memories, back when he still went by the name Carl, and traveled around with his master Vasari. At the top of the windmill, Cervantes looks out over the city, accompanied by a second mechanoid named Dulcinea. After leaving the church, Cervantes created the city as a refuge for machines, and now he invites Babylonia here. She can't understand why. Being within the clean zone, humanity would have found the city eventually, so there was no use in hiding. And even so, the city is simply a variable to help him find a specific answer. And ever since the reappearance of Sage, he no longer has a reason to stay. He has witnessed every crisis humanity conquered since the outbreak: the space station, Kowloon, City 75, and Pulea Forest. To the machines, humans are irrational and inefficient. They are fractured and full of contradictions. Yet each and every time they manage to turn the most hopeless situations around and create miracles. He wants to know what leads to these outcomes. After the Hetero Tower, he realized he would never understand, so he invited the humans, those who already possessed the answer, so he could see it firsthand and learn what makes these feats possible. On the other side of the city, Spooner and Hikma make their way to Cervantes, who once possessed the title of Tower within the church. and was responsible for the church's construction prior to Spooner's arrival. Their mission is to gather him, along with finding the other members of the church, and unite for the next stage of Sage's plan. Having split their team to clear through the Niter and Kowloon galleries, they reunite with Lena and Sika being in the middle of an argument, sparked by Lena's disapproval of Sika's battlefield awareness. Sika idolizes the Grey Raven Commandant and wants to foster a relationship with her team just like he does. But Iris Warbler isn't Grey Raven. They have their own separate personalities and issues, and trying to treat them as the same causes far more problems than it solves, especially for Lena. Having cleared the exhibits, they decide to make camp for the night, to rest and repair their damaged weapons. While on watch, Ayla and Trojan admit that while they may never end up as personal friends, they can still work together to achieve their goals as a team. After they bring up Grey Raven's commandant, Lena joins the two. The reason she despises the idea of anyone, especially her own commandant, being overly hopeful is because she's seen what's behind that curtain of hope. When Commandant rescued Liv after Imperia, many constructs on Earth defected all at once. Many commandants died during the defection, and many more constructs were killed under false accusations, and the entire incident was swept under the rug, covered by the triumph of Liv's return. She doesn't want Sika to buy into that delusion and end up dead or worse, and with a former Chrono construct on the team, she is well aware of just how much worse it can get. Meanwhile, Hikma and Spooner are also fighting their way through the various galleries, when Hikma brings up that Cervantes was once Vasari's assistant, and he was even part of the same machine consciousness experiment that resulted in both Nanami and herself, but his focus was on how art would impact the evolution of a machine's thinking. While talking, they find a squad of Chrono constructs, along with a number of kidnapped machines, and hearing that they intend to impede Iris Warbler's exploration, they eliminate the squad, rescuing the captured machines in the process. On Babylonia, the mission heads gather to discuss the status of Iris Warbler's progress, and Alan lets the others in on some insider information. Constellia was a testament to the progress of the Golden Age, and was a joint effort by the four great economic powers of the time: Kowloon, Actalic, the ARU, and the Transatlantic Economic Community. But behind all of them was Corono. They used the city as a cover to gain investors and transfer capital to fund Project Winter. Some time ago, Leonardo Norman made his way through the engineering force base, meeting up with Collins and Rebecca. To keep the meeting brief, Norman slides Collins a terminal, one of the fruits of Project Winter as he calls it. This of course causes Rebecca some confusion, as Project Winter is supposed to be about ascendants. But according to Collins, that's only the most outer layer. Project Winter is the very core of Corono, so secretive that even Collins only has the faintest idea of what it truly is. But the data Norman brought today relates to mind fusion, and an experimental test subject called Echo. They were aiming to create some sort of biological weapon to help constructs against the virus, and although the introduction of immune frames has left the experiment outdated, it still holds a wealth of information on mind research. As for Norman, his partnership with Litz is all but over, so he's looking for a new friend, and Collins has made the cut. Together the two will shake the very foundation of Corono by bringing everything they hid in the shadows to light. During the Hetero Tower incident, one of Corono's labs was assaulted by an Ascendant, and the test subject escaped. Instead of hiding it away, Collins is going to make its presence known to everyone, and after the Parliament hears about experiments on human beings, not even Corono would be able to escape unharmed. Meanwhile, in the Purifying Force training rooms, Bianca meets with Asarius, and informs him of a special mission assigned to him personally. The following day, Iris Warbler makes their way into the next exhibit, where they find a replica of the WGAA's Hamlet. As the one most familiar with its system, Ayla's volunteered to connect to it, where she is forced into a reenactment of the play Don Quixote. She then finds herself back on Babylonia, in the days of her early career, long before she was the renowned artist Ayla. Reading her memories through the connection, Cervantes brings up the story of Icarus, the boy who let his dream of conquering the sun lead him to his demise. He wants to know if it is worth it to follow an impossible dream, even if you know it won't come true in the end. This is the entire purpose of his experiment, and the answer he is seeking when they finally reach him. The simulation ends, and Iris Warbler makes their way to the next exhibit, where they find a recreation of Pelia Forest. Within it, they experience the rapid evolution of the hetero creatures, and the war-torn landscape that emerged after the birth of the twins. As a young commandant at the time, Sika was barred from the front lines due to her lack of experience, but she heard tales of that day, and knew the stories of the heroes who lived through it. Since then, every day has been in pursuit of that dream, to leave her mark just like those who came before. But she is not them. She is Sika LeBron, commandant of Iris Warbler. While the light of her seniors leads the way forward, it is up to her to find the best way to walk it. They fight their way through the rest of the simulation, and as the light of Longinus fades, a lone construct presents Ayla with the data chip. Hours after the fighting at Polea Forest had ceased, Cervantes made his way across the battlefield, documenting the names and memory data of all those who perished in the forest. He sits on top of a church's spire, running hundreds of simulations. A pure white construct saving others from the brink of death. A lone human running towards a girl falling from the sky, willing to endure untold suffering to forge ahead. Once again, he can't help but wonder, how did they manage to accomplish all of this? Against all odds, defying the calculated results of every simulation and creating miracles from nothing. After reading through the memory chip, Lena notes a strange signal interference that's been bugging her since they entered the exhibit. But before they get a chance to delve deeper, the building alarm sounds once again. Just like before, the exhibit is swarmed by mechanical guards, and Ayla stays behind to give the others a chance to escape. While searching for a way out of the gallery, something quite unexpected happens. One of the assaulting machines gives her directions to a nearby passageway, where she is rescued by Heikma and Spooner. Together they head to the next gallery, a strange mechanical sanctum Ayla can't recognize, but seems to resonate instantly with the two mechanoids. Re-experiencing their time in the church, the exhibit ends with a fight against Trailblazer, rewarding them with the final data chip. At the end of Mikhail's life, Constellia was never completed, due to both the political landscape and the outbreak of the virus. After that, Carl turned his former home into a shelter to provide refuge for humans, only to be betrayed by those he sought to help. The next time he opens his eyes, he stands before Arcana, and is one of the first machines inducted into the newly formed church, bestowed with the title of Tower. After a number of years, he completed construction of the Grey Tower, a network system that allowed all members of the church to stay in contact wherever they go. And with this task finished, he decides to leave, to journey on his own and fulfill his master's final vision of building Constellia. On the other side of the museum, the rest of Iris Warbler finds their way to safety, when Sika receives a call from Vanessa and Commandant, who were both deployed to the city in response to Corono and the missing test subject. At the same time, Heikma, Ayla, and Spooner reach the final exhibit, a partly finished recreation of the lunar base. From the shadows, Cervantes finally makes an appearance, and having reached him, he asks Ayla for her answer. What conclusion has she reached after overcoming all these trials? Countless machines destroyed themselves under the weight of their newfound consciousness and the contradictions that came with it. The desire for self-preservation, clashing with their machine logic that predicted only one possible outcome for the planet: utter destruction. Yet humanity defied odds infinitely close to zero and continued to triumph over every disaster to date. There must be some sort of formula, some method to reach a desired future. Otherwise, how could humanity have repeated it so many times? He wants this information to use as a template to create the so-called perfect future his master wanted. But the truth is, there is no catch-all solution. Humans often struggle towards dreams that are pointless from the start, and this is what Ayla tells him, that Vasari's dream of Constellia was always an impossible one. Still, in the end, he had an impact on the world he can be proud of. And while it might not have been the mega city, it was arguably something of even greater value. Carl, Cervantes himself, was the mark Vasari left behind. Suddenly the alarms are once again triggered, and they are forced to fight off the machine guards, with Cervantes saying this time it's a result of the city's defenses being hijacked. 15 minutes ago, the rest of Iris Warbler made it out of the Polea Forest exhibit and found themselves in a large open room. In the center, locked in a glass cage, is a strange suit of armor, the test subject that seems to be everyone's main focus. Suddenly, a squad of coronal constructs enter the room, and due to a strange connection the test subject has with Lena, she fires an arrow at the nearest coronal soldier, bringing a swift end to the diplomatic wrestling. Sika tackles her to the ground as the buzzing in her mind grows louder, and in a moment of clarity, she notches another arrow, aiming not at the constructs, but at the test subject's cage, shattering it as the room goes dark. Within the darkness, the purple glow of the armor makes its presence known, and Trojan is the first to act, charging forward with her tonfas, as Lena extends her hand to link with the subject. Ayla fights her way back to her team, and finds the scene of a massacre. Vital fluid and dismembered limbs, along with a heavily wounded Trojan, and in the center of it all is Lena and the test subject, who now refer to themselves as Echo. They take over the city security system, and leave as Ayla is attacked by the remaining machine guards. Before they are completely surrounded, Grey Raven and Egret finish clearing the museum, arriving just in time to provide assistance. Sika brings him up to speed on the situation, and they decide to have Vanessa secure an escape route and protect Trojan, while the rest head out to find Echo. The Purifying Force has already been deployed in the city, and if they fail to secure the subject, the blame that should fall on the Chrono squads could be placed on them. Meanwhile, Osarius serves as the temporary captain of the Purifying Force, and is barricading the city in preparation for the coming conflict, when Hikma and Spooner are sent out to delay them, giving Ayla and Commandant time to stop Echo. In the end, Grey Raven and Sika stay behind to hold off the chasing machines, as Ayla rushes to the top of the windmill. In the final hall before she reaches the top, Cervantes steps out of the shadows to block her path. She told him that even if an outcome ends in failure, a journey can still have meaning, and he intends to test her words right here and now. Everything that has happened in this city, and every sacrifice to get Ayla to the top of the windmill, and in the end he will prevent her from reaching her desired outcome. At that point, will she still have the ability to say her journey served a purpose, that it still had meaning? Cervantes brings out more machine guards, and to his surprise, the audience decides to intervene in the story. Selena appears from the ceiling and holds off the machines, as Ayla rushes past him to the roof. She pushes Echo to the brink and throws her lance to land a final blow. The test subject grabs Echo, as the lance pierces deep into its armor, and the force of the blow knocks the two off the windmill. Having passed out due to the exhaustion of battle, she wakes up to find everything is over with. The museum is clear of machines, the Purifying Force has retreated to look for Echo, and Selena has left the city with Cervantes. In a way, Cervantes was right. Ayla failed to create the storybook ending she wanted, but she does not regret it. She met many new people and had many brand new experiences. In the end, she left her mark. Meanwhile, in the streets below, the test subject hides in an alleyway with the unconscious Echo, where surprisingly the two are lent a helping hand by Teasel. The next day, Cervantes and Selena split ways, with the knowledge that in the end she will always have a place to return to with Ayla, giving her the motivation to move forward. As for Cervantes, having realized that his question does not have an answer, and it likely never will, he decides to leave Dulcinea in the city to manage the remaining machines, while he returns to the church to enjoy another journey. A week later on Babylonia, Norman meets with Trojan, and reveals that she was aware of him and Collins, and was the person who tipped off Wells about the test subject's location. With Echo still on the loose, Norman and Collins plan to capture her, and secure another trump card, and they've just managed to bring Trojan on board. Meanwhile, Ayla and Sika submit their first and last mission report. While on paper, Iris Warbler's mission was a success, they investigated Constellia and reclaimed the city. However, Lena is now missing, and Trojan was transferred for unknown reasons. Too many conspiracies converged in Constellia, and unfortunately Iris Warbler was in the middle of it all, so the team has been suspended to avoid further complication. In the meantime, Ayla and the WGAA will be working on the restoration of the city. Before Cervantes left, he entrusted the city and the machines who chose to stay behind to Ayla, to see if maybe she could use it to arrive at the conclusion his master envisioned, a rebirth of the Fantastique, the city that Vasari dreamed of. She promises to take care of it, not only as Vasari's legacy, but as his legacy as well. After all, he poured so much into it. With the team suspended, it will be harder to officially look for Lena, get back Trojan, and even find Selena. But harder doesn't mean impossible, and it certainly doesn't mean they will give up here. Sika reaches out her hand, and the commandant and captain part ways. Their encounter was brief, but the memories of their journey left its mark and forever changed their lives. For now, they walk their separate paths, and like the stories they love so much, they will one day continue the journey called Iris Warbler. Alright, and congratulations, you've just finished chapter 22 of the main story. I'm gonna speedrun this because I want to get this uploaded today. Only thoughts I'm gonna say, I really enjoyed how this chapter was internal conflict focused. Alright, it was a very nice counterbalance to chapter 21, which was extremely external conflict oriented. And the gameplay sections were absolute fire. I love the way they're going. I love how they're improving. Fantastic chapter. And I hope you all enjoyed the video, and I hope to see you all in the next video where we cover chapter 23 of the main story, Wintry Shackles.